What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports here on the Clemson channel at the voice of college football. We're going to project what the Clemson record could be in 2022 based off of the schedule, how tough the schedule is, and how good we think each team is going to be going into 2022. A very conservative approach. This is not a prediction. Our official predictions won't come until the summertime, but this is just an early projection to see where Clemson might fall if things kind of balance out this next season. Here are the projections for 2021. Of course, Clemson definitely underperformed. Most people, including myself, had Clemson in the college football playoff, and they wound up losing 3 games. Their record was 9-3. We projected them to go 12-0. The projection was 11.5 and 0.5. That was the projection because we had a 50-50 game with Clemson and Georgia. And every other game, I had a high enough confidence in that I thought Clemson, we could count those games as wins. But ultimately, when it came down to Clemson and Georgia, the team with the easier schedule was Clemson, or at least that was the thought preseason. So we wound up bumping their projection to 12-0, dropping Clemson's to 11-1. But really, that was a 50-50 game. So it was win that game, you're going 12-0, lose that game, you're going 11-1. Obviously, they did lose that game, and they lost a couple of more games in there as well. The FBI was really high on Clemson as well. You see 11.5 and 1.4. That includes an ACC championship game. So they roughly had them going 11-1 and then winning the ACC championship. That's kind of what the FBI predicted for Clemson. Had like a 90% chance to get to the ACC championship, which of course they did not. The over-under was 11.5. Seemed like a very tough pick because I think, again, most people thought this team's either going 11-1 or 12-0, but it was a really disappointing season for Clemson, and it makes it very tough to do these projections because, you know, is Clemson going to return to the team that they were in previous years, or are they going to struggle in areas like they did last season? It's impossible to say at this point, but I think most people would expect Clemson to be a top 10, top 15 team at least, especially the way they finished the season, and so that's the way we're going to look at this as we do our projections. So this is the schedule again for Clemson. This is the scale that we will be using. You see the games in white. Those are going to be your 50-50 games, the games that could really go either way, games where the spread's only going to be 3 or 4 points. Purple would be games where, and same thing with yellow, these are games where we think a team is going to be about a touchdown favorite. Going into the blue, it's a team that's maybe a double-digit favorite, around 10, 11 points, somewhere in there. And then if it's over 80%, that's a game where the team's going to be favored by 2+ touchdowns. And we count those as wins. We go ahead and count those games as wins. And we'll start with the green. I think you've got 5 games here on the schedule: Georgia Tech, Furman, Louisiana Tech, Syracuse, and Louisville. You look at Louisville there, perhaps that could be a bit of a challenge, but it's a home game for Clemson. I don't really see them having much trouble there. So I think you can pretty much count these 5 games as wins. Clemson should take care of business in all 5 of these games. And again, Clemson's a tough team to do this for because not only is there a lot of unknowns with Clemson, some of their opponents, like South Carolina, how good are they going to be with Spencer Rattler at quarterback? They finished the season really strong last year. It's hard to say, but we're going to put South Carolina and Boston College in the blue. So both of these teams are going to be in the blue. That means I think Clemson's going to be about a 10, 11 point favorite in these games. I know there's a lot of hype around South Carolina right now. The game being at Clemson, South Carolina really has not proven that they can compete with Clemson in a long time. I think we can put that game in the blue. It should be in the purple. If it was in the purple, it wouldn't really change anything, though, as far as the projection goes at the end of this. And then Boston College on the road, returning their quarterback, that could be a bit of a challenge as well. It's hard. It's hard to do this. It's very hard to do this for some of these teams. But I'm going to put those 2 games in the blue. Boston College, I think, is closer to green than they are to purple, but being on the road, I think that's what kind of pulls that into the blue. And then we go to those purple games. We got Wake Forest, NC State, Florida State, and Miami. This was another tough one, especially the Wake Forest. Wake Forest, really, when you watched the game last year, it didn't give you any hope for the Demon Deacons beating Clemson, even this upcoming season, just because of the way they match up the line of scrimmage. And I've been saying that Wake Forest just cannot match them. But based off of where this team is predicted to be in the preseason, you could even argue that this should be a 50-50 game because Wake Forest has a lot of hype coming in the year. Same thing with NC State. But I feel like with Clemson returning to their old form, These are games that they're going to be favored by about a touchdown in. Same thing with Florida State on the road. I know Florida State played them tough last year, but I think that we can say Clemson will be about a touchdown favorite in that game, and Miami as well. So those 4 games, I mean, it's tough. It's really tough to figure out where these should be. And if you drop some of these into the 50-50 range, that would change the projection and would give Clemson a projection closer to what they were last year. And will they be that team? Again, it's hard to say at this point. We have 1 game left, though, and that's Notre Dame. I'm going to keep this one in the white. I think this is a 50-50 game, a game that could go either way. Both teams should be pretty even. I mean, if I had to say, which team is going to be better next year, I probably would lean towards Clemson, but it's very close. But the game is on the road, so yeah, this is a toss-up. Even if it was at Clemson, I think this would be a 50-50 game. And so that's one that I think, again, you could really see going either way. So the projection for Clemson, when we average these numbers out, and again, anything in the green is counted as a win. And then we use 75% for blue, 65% for purple, and 50% for white. And when you do this, and you do this projection, by the way, so I thought about, if Clemson goes back to their old form, if they look like the team that they have been in the past, and we bump Boston College and South Carolina into the green, and then we take Wake Forest, NC State, Florida State, Miami, and we put those in the blue, or a couple of those, or maybe all 4 of those, it really didn't change the projection. Regardless of which way you want to do that, the projection would still pretty much be the same. For Clemson, the projection would be 10-2. So the projected record for the Tigers, 10-2, coming off a 9-3 season. Again, if this team gets back to what they had been before, they're probably going to at least go 11-1. But if they continue some of the struggles that they had last year, this could be a 9-3 team again. So that's why I think the projection right there in the middle is pretty accurate for Clemson at 10-2. Again, when it comes down to making predictions, maybe we predict Clemson to go back to their old form and go 11-1 or even 12-0. Or maybe we predict the struggles to continue. That's why this is not a prediction. It's kind of just an average, and it's just a projection. And so 10-2 would be the projection for Clemson. So going back to what I was saying, if you bump those games up, if you put Wake Forest, NC State, Florida State, Miami in the blue, you put Boston College and South Carolina into the green, the way it would come out is actually their projection would be a 10.5 win. So they'd be right in the middle of 10.5 and then are 10-2 and 11-1, right there in the middle. To bump the projection all the way up to 11-1, you'd actually have to put Notre Dame into the purple. So again, I think this is a very fair projection for Clemson, 10-2 for 2022. If they can do better than that, they can beat the projection. Of course, last year they were under the projection. We'll see how it turns out for Clemson. But 10-2 the projection for them. Give me your thoughts on the Tigers down in the comments below.